Relating percents to fractions and decimals. To think of percents, we can think of money. When we think of a penny is what percentage of a dollar? It's 1/100th a dollar, which equals 1%. 1% of a dollar. If we were to write that as a decimal, we know that we write money here, a penny as 0.01. 0.01. Let's think of some other coins. A nickel is 5/100ths of a dollar, which equals 5% of a dollar. And if we were to write that as a decimal number, we would write 0.05. A dime is 10/100ths of a dollar, which as a decimal number is 0.10, or as a percentage is 10%. Similarly, we have a quarter. I'll give you the percentage first, 25%. In decimal form, it's 0.25. 25 hundredths, 25 hundredths. 0.25 or 25 hundredths, a quarter there, and 25%. I'm going to go ahead and describe two ways that we can write fractions as percents. One of those is to use equivalent fractions. So, in using equivalent fractions, I'm going to start with this example here, 30/50ths, and think about how it is that I can write that as a percentage. As you saw with our money examples, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and get 100 as the denominator. We want to get a denominator of 100. And in writing equivalent fractions, how do we get from 50 to 100? Right, we multiply by 2. If we do that in the denominator, we also have to do that in the numerator. So 30 times 2 is 60. So we have 60 hundredths, which is written as a percentage as 60%. Using that same approach, 3/4, remember we want to get to 100. How do we get from 4 to 100? We multiply by 25. Doing so in the numerator, 3 times 25 is 75. So we have 75 hundredths, 0.75 as a decimal, which is also equal to 75%. Here are a few more examples. Again, we want a denominator of 100. To get from 20 to 100, you multiply by 5. Doing so in the numerator as well, 4 times 5 is 20. 20 hundredths is 20%. The nice thing about that last example here, and the second example I have on my screen, is 35 hundredths written as a decimal, 0.35, written as a percentage, 35%. Let's have you try. Remember, you want to get a denominator of 100, and then you can write it as a percentage. Try to write these fractions as percentages. Give me the equivalent percentage. Hit pause. Did you write the correct equivalent fraction so that you have hundredths? So you have 70 hundredths. Did you write the correct percent, which would be 70% at that point? For the second one, again, strategy and approach is to get to 100 in the denominator. Do the same thing in the numerator. We get 48 hundredths, which equals 48%. Our other way is to use division. And I'll go ahead and show you that approach. What we do is we divide the numerator by the denominator to find the decimal. In this case, we'll be dividing 4 by 10. Go ahead and write that out. 4 divided by 10. I'll add a decimal place here. 10 goes into 40, 4 whole times. 4 times 10 is 40, and 40 minus 40 is 0. Decimal point coming straight up. So we have 0.4. which is also 0.40. And then so that way we have 2 decimal places for our percentages. And then that way we add a 0 in the dividend there. Now 0.4, or 0.40, is equal to 0.40, which equals 40%. We know that these two here are equivalent. And then so when we have 2 decimal places, 2 digits at their decimal place there, like that there and that there. Let's show another example. It should be a little clearer. Here we have 9/50ths, so we go ahead and take 9 divided by 50. 50 cannot go into 9. 50, however, can go into 90. 50 goes into 90 one whole time. 1 times 50 is 50. 90 minus 50 is 40. I'll add a 0, so I can go ahead and bring down a 0. And then we have 400 divided by 50. 400 divided by 50 is 8, because 8 times 50 is 400, and 400 minus 400 is 0. I've got 18 there, but really I have 0.18 as my decimal number, because I had to place that decimal point. 0.18, 0.18, or 1800ths, is 18%. Quick quiz time! 0.32, 0.78, 0.63. What do these equal as percentages? Think, think, think. Did you say 32% for the first one? 78% for the next one? 63% for the final one? Hopefully you did. I'll show you one more example on this page. 0.02 is 200ths, or just 2%. Your turn to try with division. I set up that first division problem for you. Be sure to place the decimal point correctly to give me the percentage. Go ahead and hit pause to solve each of these. Alright, I showed you my work right here. Add a decimal point and a 0. 20 goes into 20 one whole time. 1 times 20 is 20, and 20 minus 20 is 0. Decimal point comes straight up. 0.1. Expressed as a percentage is 10%. 0.1 is equal to 0.10, which is 10%. 3/10. Sure, I had that other way to work it out. I wanted to use the division method here, though, so that is 3 divided by 10. Place a decimal point and a 0. 10 goes into 33 whole times. 3 times 10 is 30. 30 minus 30 is 0. Decimal point comes straight up. We've got 0.3, which does equal 0.30, which is 30%. So I've just shown you 2 different methods to figure out percents, relating fractions, decimals, and percents. I'm going to show you one last example. Sometimes you get thousandths. Sometimes you get thousandths instead of hundredths. So what we do here, 8 to 1,000, what we'll do is we'll use the division method. We've got 3 divided by 8. 30 divided by 8, adding a 0 with that decimal point. 8 goes into 30, 3 whole times, because 3 times 8 is 24. 30 minus 24 is 6. I'll add a 0 to bring down a 0. 60 divided by 8 is 7, because 7 times 8 is 56, and 60 minus 56 is 4. Add one more 0 for my thousandths place. And then 40 divided by 8 is 5, because 5 times 8 is 40, and 40 minus 40 is 0. And then so as you can see, we've got 0.375. We knew that 0.37, or 0.37, would be 37%. 0.375, what we write that as, is 37.5%. 375 thousandths is 37.5%. If I got these as my answers here, what would the percentages be? Looks like we actually just move it a couple places here. So we've got 62.5%. For that other one there, what percentage would we get? Right, 84.5, and then we make that percentage sign.